right, what up, what up? Welcome to another Furnace Podcast. All right, today we have Brother Desmond Green, one of our youth leaders. We're just gonna be, chopping it up a little bit, and afterwards we're gonna open the floor for questions. So this week, before this week, I was asking, what I wanted to talk about today, and I mean, for years, I always wanted to just tell my testimony. I don't think a lot of people know, like, me. Do y'all know, like, me?
A little bit.
A little bit. Y'all know I dance, and I'm a youth leader.
I know for a whole portion of your life.
A little bit, but I just want to let everybody in on it, and I always want to just, tell about like the goodness of God and the struggles that I have and things like that, and even the struggles of a team. You know what I mean? So I just start at the beginning. In 1993, I was born in New Orleans to two Christian parents, and at the time, they were just getting involved with the things of God. Like they had their past life of sin or whatever, and then they had just found God, to run their 30s or whatever. So I basically grew up in a Christian home, like most of us here. Basically grew up in a Christian home, and it was comfortable. I wasn't, hungry every day, or this big old struggle of like, we used to just drink water for dinner. I didn't have it like that. Like my parents, they took care of business, and everything I needed, I had, some of the wants too. But just to get in on my testimony, well, born in New Orleans, and I want to fast forward into middle school. Well, that was during the Hurricane Katrina and Rita. I'm sure y'all know of that. Our story of Smoking for Jesus. So during that time, I'm 14? What are you, like 14, 15, and just trying to figure out how to be a Christian. I would go to church. We would be at church all day. I'd be like, man, I mean, it was for me, it kind of was like, man, this church stuff is not fun. It's not fun at all. Do y'all sometimes feel like that? Let's be real. All the time? Sometimes. Y'all be feeling like that sometimes? Like church stuff is just not fun. Like we always go to church.
I like sometimes when they be having that extended like prayer thing after church when it be like 11 o'clock. Sometimes, yeah.
My whole like young life was just evolved around church, and it was like the only fun thing we get to do is like Hallelujah night. I didn't play sports in New Orleans. Like it was just they had time for just church. What about you, brother? How was your middle school years?
Well, like I said, we both age different, got a gap, but it's still a similarity because my father was a pastor and my mother was a missionary. So I get it when you feel like sometimes you feel like you're forced to you've been punished for going to church. Because I didn't understand it at first. Because watching my parents doing it and me doing the opposite of what my parents was doing, I didn't understand what they were saying. But as I got older to be a Christian now, I can clearly, and I hear every word that they say. And it was true. It wasn't them, it was me not understanding, not yielding to what they were saying. But just like you say, growing up, sometimes you do feel like you're forced, like this ain't for me. And then you have to ask yourself, why you think this not for you?
I think like that's the thing too. Like in that age group, it's like, man, my parents don't really understand what I'm going through. Like they want me to. I don't know. It's just it feel like an oddball because everybody else is when I gotta go to church, they out going to the movies or something. You know what I mean? So it did feel like a punishment or whatever. But just to keep going on with my testimony is that eventually I just was like, I want to try something else. You know, I mean, naturally, I just wanted to do something else. Like, this is boring. So, kind of had that opportunity to do that. I'll let you get to it in a minute, but I kind of had the opportunity to do that when I came out to Texas for the hurricane or whatever. So I would go to school, and I see these kids saying they Christian. I'm like, I'm Christian too. But the stuff that they do is not what I've been taught, like here at the church. So it's different. So I'm like, they say they Christian, but they listen to this and they do this and they life look all right. I think I'm gonna do some of that. So that led into having my own little mindset of like, well, like I'm not gonna get in trouble for doing this, and I still gonna be labeled as a Christian. So I can remember somebody showing me something, and I was just like, "What is that?" And it's not a spark because that'd be a wrong thing to say. It's not a spark, but it did spark an interest. So that led me down the path of like, I need to talk to a girl. In middle school, I just knew that was this thing that I didn't want. I didn't want to go into high school, the virgin. That was just a big thing because I wanted to. The youth that was before me, they was like, bruh, like you a dude, like you a man, right? You know how they just be talking. You always trying to look up to the next person. You know, you don't look. Sometimes we don't go to our parents and be like, well, Dad, what do you think I should do? That's not our first, natural thing to do. It's like, what my big brother doing? What my uncle doing? What my cousin doing? What he doing right now? We young. We coming up. We trying to see, we trying to be cool or whatever. So, like I said, that just took me down a bad route. Nothing happened, but it still had that. I still had that urge to want to do that, right? So that started pornography, right? Somebody told me you gotta look this up. Okay, well, I'm gonna look it up. Nah, I'm faking sick on a Wednesday night. Parents go to church in Marble Falls. I mean, I'm in Marble Falls. We in the Vistas at this time. They come here. I got me a full afternoon on dial-up. Y'all know what dial-up is? No. Man, dial-up is how you explain dial-up? Like,
All right. Dial-up is you needed a house phone.
yeah, and you couldn't be on the phone.
And it's connected
It's internet.
to the internet. And the internet is through the phone line. So if you're on the internet, you can't use the phone.
That's just how it was, man. It was like that in like 2000 or whatever. So I'll be on there clicking, and it'd be buffering. But I'm trying to get that fixed, But it's just something that was just in me, and me knowing this stuff now, I can look back and even hear like my parents' story and how this thing is just like a generational curse. But I didn't know that this thing was just lingering over me, waiting to just take me out. And I know it's for me. I'm trying to give an angle of like being a church kid and having this peer pressure.
Oh yeah, me personally, I feel like there's a whole lot of pressure because when you see, like you said, the older you doing stuff, and you looking up to them, so you trying to be like, bro, if I don't do this, I'm gonna be lame. I ain't gonna be like them when I grow up. So I feel like that's a peer pressure, and also your homies if they go and do something, and they talking about, bro, you lame if you don't do this, you gonna feel left out. So I feel like that also pressures you to sin and do stuff. Anybody else?
Like there was a lot of peer pressure in fifth grade and seventh grade for me because literally everybody in the whole grade just cursed, and it was like people they cursed you out. And in 5th grade, people didn't know what the words meant. And so everybody was like, Madison, why don't you curse? I was like, my parents told me not to. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so lame. Lame was a fancy word back then. But, and, like, I would hear people curse all the time. And I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Then this one guy, he kept coming at me. And he kept cursing me out. And I just, da 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 da. I didn't even know what I was saying, and it kind of happened. I just all the words that they were saying around me, it just somehow got in my brain, and I just duh. And then for like a week in 5th grade, I was cursing, and one day I think I was at home. And I accidentally said it. Nobody heard me, but I was about to say, oh, shoot. But then the other word came out, and I was like, did I just say that? And I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. I'm telling everybody, I don't curse. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. And peer pressure can change you even though you don't want it to. But sometimes when you hear everything around you, and they don't even have to tease you sometimes, but it just kind of gets in your brain. Definitely.
So how do y'all deal with that as Christians? I know, is it weird for y'all? To be like everybody else is doing it, why can't I do it? There you go, right here.
You said,
Go ahead, brother.
think about peer pressure. Now lately I've been watching something that had a bunch of swearing on it, and a lot of peer pressure. I try to turn it off, but it's so fascinating I can't. So one day, somebody said something stupid, and someone said something stupid like, I don't know who he said, but one day, I honestly was going to say, please shut up, but I accidentally just,
Please say it, man.
I accidentally said, shut up, you DA. And
Oh.
I was too mad because he was being very annoying. So
District Attorney.
I just told him this, yeah.
Well, you ever had any peer pressures
Yes,
besides?
I did. Even like I say, growing up, just trying to, as you getting older, trying to find who you are. You trying to fit in what you think that's the most popular thing to do, and I see the trend still goes on, because as a kid, you growing up, you don't know exactly who you are or what style you have or whatever. So you look for the most popular thing to mimic and see if that's you. And by the time you get into it, sometimes you find out that it's too late. That ain't even you, but now you stuck in it.
Peer pressure for me, like, really came through, like, just watching stuff, like, listening to certain music and stuff, because, like, I ain't gonna lie, like, one summer, I was, like, it was the summer after COVID, and, during that, like, during the school year and stuff, like, during the school year when everything got shut down, it was, like, I was just listening to, like, a lot of stuff, like, a lot of, worldly stuff, cussing stuff, you know what I'm saying? And then that summer, I was just like, man, let me try this out one time. And I was around my friends, and I was just like cussing down. I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I was cussing down and stuff, just cussing. Then that whole summer, it had me, and it was just like, it was hard for me like to stop after, because it sounded so cool, because I hear him saying in the songs and stuff, like, you know what I'm saying? This, that, and the other, dun-dun-dun. And so it was like, it took me a few years, or no, not a few years, like a pretty good while to realize, like, bro, it's not really as cool as you think. Like, cussing is really not all that.
Let me ask you a question, because I learned from my older brothers and cousins also, but by then I seen them get in trouble. Just like you said, you saw your older brothers probably do stuff that you say you're not gonna do. Did you find yourself doing the same thing, but in a different way, trying to be just doing the same thing, but going a different angle about it?
Man, I don't want to say the business. But I can't really think of nothing.
No, you don't have to
Think
go
of
into
it without.
details.
Yeah, because I don't really want to
Yeah, you don't have to go into details.
say. Yeah. But I get what you're saying though.
Why do you think that is? I mean, why do you think it's just natural for us to just gravitate toward stuff that don't glorify God? Why do you think that is? I mean, because it feels good, sometimes to be cussing. Yeah, I'm sure it felt good to be like, MF, cussing like a sailor. Why does that just, it looks, it looks cool for some, for us to do that. Or not even cussing, like just getting involved in certain things. You know what I'm saying? Like drugs or whatever. Just, man, these dudes look like they having fun. You know what I'm saying? Why does that spark interest in us? I didn't want to grow up to be like nobody. I already knew that, God had something for me. I didn't know what it was, but I didn't want to be, labeled as this and labeled as that. So my intentions was not to, but because of peer pressure and because, at the time that I did, I would say lose. You don't lose no virginity. You be giving it up. Yeah. So yeah. So when I did that, that was at a time where I didn't have anybody over me, right? I didn't have my parents. I had this so-called freedom, So at that time, I just wanted to do whatever I wanted to do, and it was peer pressure too. It was kind of like the knowledge that I have of it was like, I'm a man now. So that's what I was shooting for. I probably was looking, not knowing, but I probably was just looking to be a man now, not knowing it, but I just was like, this is what men do,
One more question. Now, you said you did, so how you feel afterward?
How did I feel afterwards? Yeah. I knew that it was sin, so I had that guilt. You know what I mean? I was like, and first of all, I thought it was the biggest sin you can ever make, right? I'm thinking, man, I didn't had sex with this woman, and oh Lord, and all of the U class, you gonna catch AIDS and pregnancy, all that stuff just came in one night. It was like, bro, you're a sinner and your stuff gonna fall. You gonna get the girl pregnant and I was like, oh Lord, what I just did. But I tried to hide that. And that, because I thought that it was a big sin, it opened up doors to everything else. So, Brother Ralph started smoking a little weed, get that off. Yes, sir. Yeah, started doing started drinking. You know what I mean? Because I thought it was the biggest sin. So why I'm up in here sugarcoating? Ain't nobody. My toes in now. I felt like I had the biggest sin. So yeah, I felt horrible, but at the end of the day, I was like, I'm a sinner anyway. Might as well go full 100. Go ahead and dive in. And then so that started just a cycle of just not caring, losing my faith, and everything that I was taught here at the ministry. It just was like out the window. But I do believe that God had a plan for me, and I really wanted to know God. Before all that stuff happened, before I went to college, I really wanted to know who God was. And I think this was one of the ways that he can show me. By all the stuff that you're doing, it ain't going to give you no satisfaction. Only satisfaction is in me.
I think one of the bigger issues, the deeper issue is, in my years of being a youth leader, which has been almost over 20 years that I've been, that me and my wife have been youth leaders, and in our experience, like Brother Ralph said, there's a lot of sinning that's going on amongst all of these kids that's supposed to be Christians. The problem that I have noticed, the problem that has always been around is that Brother Ralph sinning, but then brother so and so know about it. So brother so and so ain't gonna necessarily say, hey, Lil Ralph, man, you shouldn't be doing that, blah blah blah, because he's in his sin, right? And so everybody's just covering everybody's issues. And you know, and you know, yes, of course, it's sin, but like the lack of accountability to help one another is the main issue. Because just imagine if one of the brothers would have said, "Nah, Ralph, I don't think that's the move, bro. Just be cool." You know what I'm saying? Somebody that's holding his foot to the fire to say no. Maybe it would have caused. Maybe he could have stayed here until marriage. It wouldn't have opened up other doors. So that's the issue that I see amongst the youth today, is that y'all know stuff is going on, but then it's like y'all don't hold each other accountable to it, because there's two things going on. Because you doing your dirt, and then the second thing is, well, I can't tell them nothing if I ain't doing it. You know what I'm saying? So what happens? The devil, he just puts you in a lose-lose situation. You know what I'm saying? One thing I loved about when I stayed in the house of Joseph, we all had flaws and and had issues, but in the midst of all of our issues, we still held each other accountable. Regardless to what I was going through, I still had the courage to say, nah, bruh, I don't think you need to do that, and vice versa. So what that did, it helped us. It helped us to walk in freedom and to stop sinning. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think that has to be, the mentality, and y'all are friends amongst yourselves, and y'all know how y'all interact with one another. But y'all need to add in that key ingredient of holding people accountable. Nah, girl, I don't think you need to do that. Nah, no. Look, girl, look, you need to stop that cussing. Yeah, you need to stop cussing, or whatever the case may be.
I got a question. So I know I'm young too, but this is for like the young people. What is it that like makes us not want to hold each other accountable for things like this for the youth to answer?
I feel like, just like Brother Marvin just said, like we feel like if we sinning, we can't tell you nothing. So that'll make us think, because like if you doing something bad, but you see somebody else, you trying to help them, you like, well, I can't tell them anything because I'm over here doing this, so how I'm supposed to help them? I can't help myself. I feel like that's one way.
Mine is, it just be like, it's not none of my business and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't want, like, cause like I don't want to be nosy and be like, yeah, I know you be doing all of that, like getting on their tail. So I just rather like stay out of it. Right. If that makes sense.
For me, sometimes like I see my family that's supposed to be Christians, and they be doing the same thing, and be like, oh, so they could do it, so like why not I try a little bit? But like I see how they get in trouble, so like I be like, let me lay off of that. So,
I think it's one thing about it is we're scared to lose friends. Like if we tell them about themselves, we're like, oh no, you trash, bro, get out my face. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, we all supposed to be Christians here. So it's like once you lose your friends, you're gonna be all sad because you're like, oh, we all supposed to be Christians. Why they don't like me? And then it's gonna get you to backslide against God and say, I don't like this stuff. I'll just forget about this crap. You know what I'm saying?
I think all of y'all responses are valid, but it's valid to the flesh. You know what I'm saying? Because I guess, and if I was in that mind, if that was my thought pattern, I would lean more to what Sam said. Because I still, to this day, I tend to like to mind my own business. You know what I'm saying? But as a believer, you know what I'm saying, we have to be able to be concerned about one another. Like that's just a part of our walk, being concerned for one another. In Ezekiel 33:18, I want to say, I know for sure it's chapter 33, but Ezekiel said that if we see somebody sinning and don't tell them of their sin, that person gonna go to hell, but we're gonna be held accountable for not telling them as well. You know what I'm saying? So we're obligated to be able to be our brother's keeper. You know what I'm saying? That's what was happening with Cain and Abel. That's why God was like, aren't you? I mean, he was like, hey man, what's happening with what you did? And that's what Cain was like, man, am I my brother's keeper? You're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to be. Now, Ebony said that, family members doing it, I'm going to do it. You know what I'm saying? Is, we have a tendency to, and even with Brother Ralph, he was doing, he's seeing the older crew doing it, so now he's doing it. And then even what Myron was saying, you don't want to lose friends. So then it really boils down to, what do you value more? Yeah, you value your friends, but as believers, you know what I'm saying, what do we fear? Do we fear men or do we fear God? You know what I'm saying? So that's the battle.
Even like Myron said, lose friends, right? The key is, what is a friend? Because I had friends and I had people I knew. See, my friends, they're the ones that was closer to me, that knew everything, that actually stopped me and said, hey, you wrong. Even though I did something wrong, they made me aware of my wrong. Real friends can tell each other the truth. And that's the thing. You can't, if your real friend can't tell you the truth, is that your real friend? Because your real friend is looking out for your best interest. I wouldn't want Ralph, my brother, nothing be wrong. If I see him going down the path and I don't tell him nothing, like Sam say that ain't my business, but I'm seeing him going down the tunnel. Now when he finally hit rock bottom, I'ma feel bad, man. That happened to Ralph. But I didn't do nothing to stop Ralph because I figured that wasn't my business. I ain't want to get Ralph in trouble because I ain't want him to be mad at me. See, my thing is, I used to use this example because they used to say, well, I tell him, but that's the farthest you go. If you know somebody, if one of your family members about to commit suicide, you gonna say, don't kill yourself, right? You gonna stop there? You gonna do whatever it takes for them not to kill themselves, right? That's the same thing spiritually. Don't let them commit spiritual suicide by not saying anything.
I think another thing when like being a middle kid and being like a part of a really big family, you look up to certain people, and like my sister, like sometimes I see her, she be doing stuff she's not supposed to, and even like my other family members, no, bro, and even my other family members, and it's like they're getting in trouble for it, but maybe they just did this one thing and I'm gonna do it a little differently and I'm not gonna get in trouble. My dad can tell you I'm not as sneaky as I think I am. but and like sometimes like when y'all both want to do something, when we both want to do something wrong, we don't just be like, no, don't do that. Sometimes we just be like, and then we just do it, we make a pact, don't tell nobody, and just like keep it to ourselves. And then it's like, even with like some of my cousins, well, not, yeah, like you see them, like, but you don't see them all the time. And like when you do see them, you're like, oh yeah, they're doing good. But when you like really pay attention and be observant, it's like, oh, they do that, okay. And then it's like when you see other people, when you kind of see and glimpse into what they're doing in the dark, it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. Like, maybe you should rethink it.
Okay, now I had a question for everybody. When you see somebody, do something bad and you really want to do it, I had a question for y'all, and I want you to answer your own opinion. Why do y'all think y'all should do it? Why y'all think, I had to do it? Why y'all think that?
I think most of the time we're not like we should do it. It's just probably just curiosity. You know, like I said, curiosity kills the cat. So I'm just like, it looks fun. You know, I used to see guys who smoke weed in high school, and they looked like they was just living life. You know, just like, and I was like, maybe I should try it, but I was like, nah, I'm an athlete. I don't do that. That was the only thing keeping me, cause I'm an athlete. I'm a healthy, but I eat honey buns after school. But you know, but like Ms. Marvin said, like it's what's the priority? Like, are you trying to lose your friends? Are you trying to look good? And mine actually goes back to Sam. Like, I didn't tell nobody my business, so that became. Now I'm dealing with this struggle inside. Like nobody knows that I was up late at night on the dial-up, 2:00 in the morning, while the video buffering, just trying to get a fix. And I was good at that history. I tell you, I was good at that history report. They clear that history real quick. But then my mother saw it, and she saw like all the titles and stuff like it had on, and she was like, "What is this? Two of these in one?" And she was like, "This is just disgusting." I was like, "Oh man," and even like, I don't know. I think like nowadays, like like as parents, like we need to really like sit down and talk about it, cause my parents like my dad came up to me, was like, "Well, you know, son, I used to struggle too, and you know, and you can't do that, son." It's just like a taboo topic, so it's like, nah, I'm still curious, you know. So I want to find out, you know, I want to go a little further. So when I get the freedom, I'm gonna try to see what's up. Anyway.
Well, to answer Joel's question, it didn't also go all the way back to when we first started talking about being in church and stuff. One thing that I think the problem is that we don't really realize that us being looking at those kids and how they go to church, some of them go to church, like I said, but they don't go as much as we do. We don't really realize that, like what are they doing when they're not going to church? Like, when they going out with their friends and stuff, are they living right? Are they doing that? And we always be like I'm trying to get, because I had the thought in my head. I'm trying to get back to what I was saying. Like we always being jealous of, like we want what they want, how they be going out places, but we always in the church like that. We didn't realize that, like when we in the church, we're really being safe from what they're actually doing. Like we don't know what they're really doing, but like when I talk to those kids, I think my father's like, most of them, they be getting into dumb stuff, right? And then they'll tell you, some of them will tell you what they doing, but like half of the time, what they saying they doing is most likely lies. So like when we go ahead and be like, "Oh, I want to do what they doing," and they giving you a formula on how to do it and not get in trouble, you do it, and then you get in trouble for it because they just told you, they just said, "Well, do this and do that," but they don't really know because they ain't never been through it. They never did what they saying they doing. So that's why we should just be like, we should realize that us being in church all the time, we need to take advantage of that because we are getting knowledge that those kids are not getting. They're getting this worldly knowledge and they think they so smart in the world, but spiritually they have nothing to help them. So it's like being in the church is really, it might seem boring, which it, you know, sometimes, you know what I'm saying, like I'm trying to go home, you know what I'm saying, but it's like, you know what I'm saying, we really need this because those kids, because one day they gonna have a bad time. Brother Aaron told me this one time. He said the reason why God got us in this situation is because our friends out there, they're gonna have their evil day where they're gonna be asking for help. They won't have an answer, so we're gonna have to help them. So that's why God put us in this position to be in the church, raised in church like that.
That's really good.
And going to what like Ralph was saying, even like me growing up and wanting to do something, like seeing the outside people doing certain things, And I knew they was doing certain things, but my parents told me, no, don't do it. That's it. That's all I got. That's all I got. No, don't do it. Now, what that did to me is when I see my friends in the street doing it and they look okay, nothing happened to them. So now, why y'all don't want me to do it? Y'all just saying no. They never explain, like we explain stuff now, the repercussions of what could happen, what it causes. I never got that as a kid. All I got was the no, don't do it. So now that left me curious in the back of my head, especially I see a bunch of people doing it, but not getting in trouble for it. They're looking happy while I'm sitting up here looking bored. So that pushed me to go try to figure out what's going on. So that's why I explain stuff now and try to, that's why we try to explain it, because we want y'all to not have no excuse. And y'all can be fully aware.
Now, when you do something bad, wait, okay, now let me go begin. When you see some peer pressure and you do it, does it feel good at first?
You answer the question. Does it feel good to you? Yeah, bro. I know you're trying to get everybody involved, but what does it do for you?
Okay. So for me, yeah, it does feel good at first. That's the reason why I continue on doing it. But then the further I go, it feels very uncomfortable, and sometimes I want to stop, but once you do it once, you can't turn back.
I hear you, brother.
That's the danger. That's the danger of with sin. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like once you get a taste of it, it is hard to turn it off. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's even what Brother Ralph even mentioned about with the pornography. What pornography does to the brain, there's a chemical in our mind called dopamine, and what dopamine does is that sweet spot. Like when you eat something that's really good, what happened? Those senses go to your dopamine, and it tells you, oh man, like this is so good. You know what I'm saying? No, and that's what it does. That's what it does. You know what I'm saying? And guess what? God gave us that sense for us to enjoy food, to enjoy, having a good time. Like when you hear a song, and it make you feel good. What's happening? That dopamine is saying, "Hey, man, this is all good." So what happens with sin, pornography, whatever you're getting into, whatever your vice is, what you keep doing, you just keep feeding that dopamine. You keep feeding that, and what happens? You can feed it so much to where it shrinks. Like if you Google and look at the brain and see what happens when your dopamine is constantly being triggered. And this is the thing about it. Just like Elle said, once you start it, you got to keep feeding it. You got to keep feeding it to get that feel good. And what happens, you start to graduate to different things. Whatever your vice was in the beginning, it don't feed it anymore. So what you got to do, you got to keep beefing it up. You got to keep beefing it up. And what happens with food. Let's just use food since that's more of a neutral ground. You know what I'm saying? Like me, for instance. I love a lemon cake. I got a lemon cake waiting for me at the house right now that by God's grace I did not touch. But that dopamine in my mind is telling me, because what I did do, I was licking the icing. I licked the icing and I was like, ooh, Father, help me. You know what I'm saying? But listen, I only get it once a year. They got my coworker at my job. She'll make it for my birthday every year. But when I know when my birthday is coming, I can start feeling those senses. You know what I'm saying? I can start feeling that, and I will say I would have some self-control because I only get it once a year. But there's certain foods I like. I like to eat sherbet ice cream. You know what I'm saying? And I like my ice cream to be a certain way. You know what I'm saying? And it makes me feel good when I eat it. You know what I'm saying? So, you got to be careful of that. Just trying to go back to what Joel was saying, being careful of once you open up that door to whatever, it's hard to close it. And that's why you need accountability. That's why you need people to be, and look, none of us are worthy. I mean, if we had to look at it from any aspect, yes, nobody shouldn't tell nobody nothing, right? But the fact of the matter is, we are washed by the blood of the Lamb. Jesus died on the cross that we can ask God to forgive us, and we are obligated to help one another. So regardless to what I'm going through, now I got to get my stuff together, but I'm still obligated to say, Judah, no, that's not it, girl. You need to stop it. You know what I'm saying? I can't be like, well, I can't tell Judah nothing because I'm doing my thing. No, we're not going to be able to use that when we stand before God. And in telling somebody else, it should compels us to want to change because we trying to tell somebody else what to do.
The last part, what you said, I need to ask y'all this. Like I was talking about, man, I can't tell somebody something if I'm doing something right. But you want to, right? Okay. That part in you that want to help someone else, but you don't want to help yourself. Draw. I need help with that one.
Wait, say the question.
Like at that point when you want to help someone else, your heart goes out for them, but it don't retracts for you. You want them to stop, but while you keep going.
And it may not even be the same issue. It may like, man, I wish you would stop stealing. That's probably something you don't struggle with. They'll be like, man, I wish you would stop stealing. But you dealing with something. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. Like it could be anything. Like you want them to stop. But in the midst of you wanting them to stop, that same urge is not for you to stop whatever you're doing.
I think I don't know. For some people, it's just easier to point out other people's sin. It just, yeah. We would, like you said, Myra, we just naturally judge people. Just like, I mean, we can easily judge people off the TV and be like, man, them dudes, them boys, fat or whatever. I don't know, like they eat too much cake or whatever it is, like the 600-pound people or whatever. Or like y'all ever seen the episode of Hoarders? Like, bro, they so dirty, and we up in there throwing chip bags in our room. We just quick to judge. I think that's what it is too. Sometimes we don't see ourselves. Like even if we're having an argument with somebody, we're gonna try to say that no, you're wrong. We don't ever see like maybe I'm wrong. I think it's just natural for us to answer that question.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, like pointing out and wanting to help, though. Just like he said, he wants to tell them to stop, but he can't because of whatever they're doing.
I think sometimes, like say, I'm stealing cookies out the kitchen, but I don't want you to steal cookies out the kitchen because I don't want you to get fat. But sometimes it's like we have justification, like. I have a justification for it because I'm on a workout regimen and I'm not going to get any weight, but you might. And it's like, I want to help you, but I want to let me do my thing. I'm going to help you and you just leave me alone, okay?
I was thinking that same thing because what happens, I'm sorry, but what happens, we start comparing ourselves. That's a way of us justifying because we start trying to compare, what I'm doing ain't as bad as them. But it's still bad. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead, man.
I think it's just they got this. I don't know if any of y'all heard this saying, but it's like you're looking at somebody else's mirror. Like you never. Okay. Well, it's like I feel like sometimes the reason we don't want to stop doing that. We don't want to tell them nothing, is because it's like we see them Yeah, like we all in our own mirror, but we sometimes cross over to look at somebody else's mirror. And then when we look at theirs, it's like, man, bro, like what they doing, I know it's wrong, but it look really good. So it's like, okay, then I'm not gonna tell him nothing because I want to do it too, and maybe I could push him out the way so I could have all of it. And so it's just like we just, you know what I'm saying, like we're naturally judgmental and we're naturally selfish because we just want their stuff for ourselves. So we're not gonna tell them nothing. And then, but then there's this movie called Whitewater. Have y'all seen that? Well, on the scene they have a kid. They have a black kid want to drink. Black kid and a white kid. And y'all know how they had the black water, white water? The black kid wanted to drink the white kid water. And then next thing you know, the black kid like, I just want to see what it tastes like. So he go try the water. And then they have a white policeman about to beat him with a bat. Well, he wasn't about to. It was looking like he was about to beat him with a bat. But he was just showing them that the water just come from the same pipe. But it's like, when we try to do what they're doing, or we look in their mirror, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just costing, like, leading us to destruction, you know what I'm saying? Like, to getting punished. Because we not really built for what another person is doing. Like, what they doing, we didn't grow up in that. Like, one time when you was telling the class, you was saying, the reason why we tell y'all stop trying to act like y'all from the hood is because y'all wasn't raised there. You know what I'm saying?
How do we fight this urge or this feeling that we have?
The first step is just being honest. I got friends. I call, hey, bro, hey, I'm struggling with this today. And the first step they do, hey, let's pray. That's the thing. That's why I called them. I ain't calling nobody to say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Man, what channel you saw?
Right.
Oh, wait, you saw that? Who? No, I don't need no agreement. No.
Yeah, I think that's really important just to have that friendship, you know, and have that strong relationship. First, yeah, it is confession. You know what I mean? You have to, this is where I'm at. You know, our pastor say all the time, you know, a man lie to himself is a dead man. So, I mean, you got to, this is what I'm struggling with. You know, I eat cookies, whatever it is, you know, and find that prayer warrior, that true friend that's not going to ask you, like Brother Desmond said, well, what channel you saw it on, that's going to really help you. And if that's not your friend, if that's not your peers, go to somebody else that has been through it. And not just anybody. You know, they have to experience it. You know, they have to have some kind of wisdom in this area, you know, and overcame it, right? And another thing, we are imperfect people. So don't just beat up on yourself because 2 days I was a Christian and now today I just, you know, I'm struggling now. No, God still wants that relationship with you. Repent. Turn away from your sin and keep going. I feel like we can go on and on about stuff that we talked about today. I really enjoyed it. But this has been another episode of The Furnace. All righty. Love the questions, y'all. Make sure to comment, share, like, subscribe.